All right, y'all. So because of the questions on TikTok about HMH, it's my curriculum that I use. I'm an 8th grade teacher. Currently, this is my 25th year in education. I've used lots of different curriculums. I've even, started obviously teaching in the 90s, and we had our basal readers, and the stories were not interesting back in the day. And so, but now the stories really are interesting. And so when as I said, I'm a Texas teacher, and so I'm teaching the TEKS. And so I do use the HMH curriculum. Now, I don't use it in its entirety. I use it according to the TEKS of what I'm supposed to teach. And so we just finished, and if you'll go back and check like my TikToks and things like that, and so I would go through what I'm teaching in the textbook. So we did our first unit. So if you have an HMH, and you can do this with any curriculum, there's a lot. Like if you really look at the HMH curriculum, there's a lot. I don't do it all. But what I did is the first unit, and it was about technology, and it had our essential question, and I picked out certain stories that I wanted to read and focus on. So if you go back and watch, like go to my TikTok, the link's in my bio, go to my TikToks, and you can see the stories that we did, because I was telling everyone what I'm teaching. And so, but there's so many things that you could do with the stories. The stories are really good. And so I did different activities with each story to make sure that they understood and the TEKS that I'm wanting to accomplish. So I am starting my horror genre in HMH, and the first story is of the Telltale Heart. And the reason I really like doing this and using the HMH curriculum is because the questions that they use, I don't trust myself, even though I've been doing this a long time. I want to make sure that the questions are deep enough. And so if you have the HMH curriculum or any curriculum, it has the questions that you need to be asking, and then you can base it off of this. So that's why I really, really like this. So when we're going through the Telltale Heart, these are the questions that we're talking about. It also has some videos with some close reads, and it tells you where to stop. And so digitally, I can pull up the close read on my Promethean board, and we can go over that and teach them how to analyze the text. So this is what we're doing currently. And then we're going to do a doc question, the DOK questions with it. So I put it in ChatGPT, the Telltale Heart, and I wanted level 3 and level 4 questions. And tomorrow you can check back, and I'll put this on my YouTube channel as well as my TikTok. We're going to battle it out. Sometimes I draw like brackets and we battle it out. Tomorrow we're not going to do that, but I have 6 deep level, because I have 6 groups. We have 6 questions, and they're going to put them on index cards, and they're going to put them on the board. And so I'm going to show you at the end of the day what all of them look like and the questions that I had for each of them. But I encourage you, like if you have a really good curriculum, and I'm sure your school district does of some sort. I know not all districts, and I'm blessed, but not all districts do use certain curriculums. But for me, like I could plan out the unit. So in our first unit that we did with the technology, with the essential question about basically, was technology good or bad? Does it help us or hinder us? And so the first story we read was The Brave Little Toaster, and it was about this energy drink and, all the things, and we talked about that. And so it was like a fiction story, but we talked about, the causes and the effects, and that we are comparing and contrasting, and we're doing all the things with Bloom's that we need to. And then we went on to our next story, and then we went on to our last story, which I could have done even more if I wanted the unit to go further. And it was 2 pieces, one about automation and how automation we will not be losing jobs. So the author's claim was, we will not be losing jobs, you will be just needing different skills. So the automation part, we're not going to lose jobs, just new skills. But it gave reasons that automation is good. The next article that we read, it talked about humans are going to be losing jobs due to automation. And so it was really easy to compare the arguments and do the differences in the articles. But what I wanted the kids to do, and if you'll check my TikTok, we did a Venn diagram, and we talked about the similarities of that, because a couple years ago when I was teaching 6th grade, that was in their star, and they had to compare, and it was really hard. And it's easy to do the differences, but of course star isn't going to make it easy for you. They're going to make you do something hard, which is the similarities. So we're going to do several examples of this. I could have even had them write an argumentative essay. I could have had them do an ECR with it. Like, I could have gone even further with these two pieces. And they liked the stories. They really did. And we talked about it, and we, were really thoughtful about the questions that we asked, and I pulled them into debate. So we debated these things. Kids love to debate. And so, but we did that. And so I wanted them to talk about the similarities. So when we read our second story, Heads Up Humans, I told them ahead of time, this is what you're going to be looking for. Yesterday we read this one, and this was the author's claim. Today we're going to read this one. I want you to see what the author's claim is today, but I want you to look for similarities, and I want you to highlight, hashtag, annotate, do all the things as we're reading this story. And that's what we did. So then the next day they had to come up with the similarities, and they could do an SCR, or you could have used an ECR for it if you wanted to go in depth with that as well. So there's so many different things that you can do with your curriculum. Now, I don't do it all, but I do love the stories that's included in our curriculum. And so whether you're doing Pearson or Springboard or whatever you're doing, they have really good pieces of text. And the goal of what we're teaching is to analyze the text. And so I don't have to look anywhere for it. I mean, it's here for me. This is super easy for me to be able to pull out the story and analyze the text. And then we take the selection test at the end, and HMH is super hard. Like, I think their tests are harder than STAR. And so I know if my kids do well on these HMH tests, they're going to be just fine by the time STAR rolls around, because we don't even start STAR prep until after January. Like, we don't even really talk about it. But I know that they will have been seeing those types of things. But I'm also, because I do building thinking classrooms, so like, check my previous posts and stories and all the things, because I've given you things on how I do building thinking classrooms, and I really am making them think. And so last week we did a Socratic seminar with the story from Ray Bradbury, When Soft Rains Come. That ended our technology, our gadgets piece. And so we did that, and then we did a Socratic seminar with that, and we had 12 super hard questions. And I know in a Socratic seminar you want the students to come up with the questions, but I'm not to that place yet. So I provided the questions. They had to respond to the questions and then debate them, and which was super fun. And the kids were really engaged. And then when we took the HMH test, I'm looking at them today. So we took them on Thursday. Today's Monday. They did really well. I had so many 80s and 90s, and I even had a few 100s sprinkled in on an HMH test, which I've been using HMH for years. And this is the first year that I've really had super high scores this early in the year on HMH. So I know it's because of building thinking classrooms and then the Socratic seminar that I had. And so check out my piece tomorrow with the Telltale Heart. Make sure you like, share, save, follow, all the things. You can do it on TikTok and YouTube. That I'm going to show you what we're doing with this, and I am making the kids think. That's my goal this year, making them think. So if you have any questions about the HMH curriculum and what I do, definitely go check my TikToks out, because I went through and I told what I was doing day by day, basically. So if you are teaching this, even if you're not teaching it, whatever your curriculum is, you can still get tips and tricks on how I analyze a story with my 8th graders. So anyway, if you have any questions, please throw it down in the comments. I'm not a TikToker. I'm not a YouTuber. I'm really just a teacher trying to help other teachers be successful in the classroom. I've done it for a long time. I've failed a lot of things. I've figured out a lot of things. And so I'm just here to help you grow. That's all I'm doing, is free professional development is what I'm doing. So if you have any questions, let me know. Throw it down in the comments. Or if you have any advice, thoughts, different ideas, I'm all for taking new ideas and being able to run with them. So if you have some ideas to help me, please throw them down. I'm more than willing to learn. Happy